Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Missing Frames. This is the podcast where we watch all the movies we should have seen by this point in our lives. I'm your host, Shawn Eastridge. We are hanging out on the Nerd Party Network, a network of podcasts devoted to all things, you guessed it, nerdy. So go check it out at thenerdparty.com. You can also like the Facebook page, follow us on Instagram at the Nerd Party, and follow us on Twitter at Join Nerd Party. And this is also another landmark episode of Missing Frames. We have hit episode 90. We are so close to hitting 100. We will get there someday, but for now, you're going to have to be satisfied with this. And you're going to be even more satisfied, I promise you, because we have brought back Brad Gullickson to celebrate another anniversary episode. Brad, welcome back.
What? 90 episodes. Congratulations.
Thank you, Brad. And again, thank you so much. I so enjoy that we are continuing this tradition of having you on for all of this. You were on episode 80, episode 70, all the way back to 30. So I'm just delighted. And in general, I just love having you on. I'm almost more excited about talking to you than I am about hitting these milestones.
I mean, I'm ecstatic that I'm on, and I'm always even more ecstatic when I get to pick the movie.
It is your turn. It is your turn to pick the movie. So what we've been doing, ladies and gentlemen, if this is the first time you've tuned in to one of these milestone episodes with Brad and I, since we started doing this, have been trading off favorite films, our heart films, quote unquote, movies that we love, that we've grown up with, or that we have just such a fondness for. We have to share them with one another. The last one we did together was The Seventh Seal, which was me introducing it to Brad. It's one of my favorite films, and we've done Dirty Harry, My Neighbor Totoro. What else have we done? Big Trouble in Little China, The Graduate. Man, we've done so many great ones. And now it's Brad's turn. Brad, what movie have you decided we're going to be watching today?
So we're going to the 90s, 1995,
right.
A great year. So many wonderful films to pick from that year. But we're picking the best of the best from 1995. We're picking Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight.
Demon Knights, which is, oh man, I feel like every episode we've done before this, it's been like a legit masterpiece or a film that has like a legit reputation. Demon Knight, I think you're throwing a curveball at me. Are you throwing a curveball at me?
I honestly don't think so. And I think if you knew about its reputation, you would understand why so many people adore this film. I think it is a film that doesn't get in front of as many eyes as I would like because it is a Tales from the Crypt movie. And a lot of people just say no at that title. At that HBO series from the late 80s, early 90s. And for those folks, like, okay, you're not a Tales from the Crypt person. Maybe you're not a horror person. Fine. I'm not going to try to convince you that Demon Knight is one of the great American movies. But if you are a horror fan, if you do like this genre in any way, I would highly encourage you to watch this film the way that I'm encouraging you, Shawn, to watch this film. And I think you will be pleasantly surprised. I'm going into this episode feeling pretty confident that you're going to like this movie.
You think I'm going to like, I mean, I trust you, Brad. You have not steered me wrong yet. This is the one where I'm kind of, when you mentioned, I was like, what do we, because there's so many movies that you've seen that I haven't seen. I think when we flip the tables on you, it's much harder for me to find a movie that you haven't seen that I really love. In this case, this is a situation where I feel like this is the first time where you are really like, I was not expecting Demon Knight as an option for a film we were going to be watching. Growing up, I knew about Tales from the Crypt. I knew I wasn't allowed to watch it. I don't really know much about it other than The Crypt Keeper, and kind of it was sort of an anthology TV show, or I guess in this case it was a film series where they just attached that brand to it. But it was such a no-no in my household that I knew nothing. I don't really have any nostalgic value for The Crypt Keeper or anything related to it. So I am going in completely blind. I looked up the cast. I know Billy Zane's in it, Jada Pinkett Smith, and William Sadler is in it, which is great because pretty soon my wife and I are going to be watching Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. So if I can have more William Sadler in my life, the better. But that's literally all I know. So I don't even I never heard of this before. I don't know. You don't typically see it ranking amongst like, oh, this is one of the greats in the annals of horror. So it's just one of those things that it was not on my radar. But do you remember first seeing it? Do you remember what the circumstances were? And what is it about the film, I guess, without spoiling anything, that has attached you or it endeared itself to you so greatly?
Well, I desperately wanted to watch the film in the theater, but I could not convince either of my parents to take me back in 1995.
So this was a
Yeah.
theatrical, it was a
Oh, yeah.
theatrical release.
Oh, yeah. In fact, its sequel, Bordello of Blood, was the first R-rated movie I saw legally when I turned 17.
I have heard of that one. I have heard of that.
Yeah, so I really wanted to watch this in the theater. My parents wouldn't take me. I eventually saw it on VHS, and I knew I was going to love it already because I was a fan of the Tales from the Crypt HBO series. I mean, that show was super gnarly. It came out in 1989. It's got guys like Richard Donner as an executive producer, Walter Hill's an executive producer, Joel Silver, Robert Zemeckis.
Oh, wow.
Top tier talent. And they all directed episodes. And I think Richard Donner, did he direct the first episode, the pilot? It might have been Walter Hill, but that episode has William Sadler in it too. And yeah, it's an anthology.
I had no idea so much talent was involved.
Oh, dude, get ready. It's an anthology series. It's based on the old EC Comics series that William Gaines published back in the 50s. You know, you had amazing artists like Jack Davis and Harvey Kurtzman, Graham Ingalls, all these amazing talents knocking out comics for Tales from the Crypt. And the show, for the most part, adapted a lot of those stories. And they were like little morality tales, kind of like the Twilight Zone, but hard R.
Okay.
And I remember one episode as a kid called Carrion Death, which starred Kyle MacLachlan. And he played a guy, he was a criminal, and I think he handcuffed himself to the body of a cop the cop handcuffed him, and then he killed the cop, and he had to drag the cop's body across the desert until he sharpened a rock, put it on a stick, and then rammed it down on the cop's arm, except he missed, and he hit his own arm. And that gore effect, I'm pretty sure was the first like true blue gore effect that I ever saw. And I was deeply disturbed by that rock axe going into Kyle MacLachlan's arm.
And that was on television?
It was on HBO, which was, for adults
HBO,
only,
okay.
Right. And it was one of those early HBO shows where you're like, oh, you couldn't see this on TV anywhere else. And you might not even see this anywhere else in film. And so that gore level was a factor of why I liked it so much. But because it had so much talent, they did make a bunch of episodes that were incredibly clever, well written, and had a ton of great performers. And you had all kinds of people coming in and out of that series because of the producers who were involved. Now, Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight is not based on any Tales from the Crypt comic book, is not based on any Tales from the Crypt television show. It is a wholly unique invention. Now, it's directed by Ernest Dickerson, who is Spike Lee's cinematographer. He's the guy who shot Malcolm X. He shot Do the Right Thing.
Oh my God.
Right.
So had he directed much before this, or is this his feature debut?
He had directed another great movie, which doesn't get talked about enough anymore, but with Tupac Shakur, called Juice, which is another really beautiful film. And, he's gone on and he's directed Walking Dead episodes, a whole bunch of TV. He directed the Snoop Dogg movie Bones, which is also way better than it has any right to be. He directed the DMX film Never Die Alone, which I'll go to bat for any day of the week. Another really beautiful film. It's extremely awkward, though. The morality of a DMX film is uncomfortable, but worth watching. But Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, as directed by the guy who shot Do the Right Thing, is a crazy, beautiful looking movie and has an amazing cast, right? So you mentioned Billy Zane. Billy Zane considers this his finest hour as an actor, and I agree with him.
Wow.
William Sadler gets to lead this movie. He does not get to lead films very often. And I'm always there for William Sadler. I became a fan of him because of Die Hard 2 and Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. but I still love him. Recently, he showed up in The Grudge, and he's great in The Grudge, and he showed up in VFW, and he's great in VFW. But this, like Billy Zane, is his finest hour. It's also starring Jada Pinkett Smith, and guess what? This is her best movie. She is so great in this film. But then you have like all
not
these
the Matrix Reloaded.
No, this is, dude. You're gonna fall in love with Jada Pinkett Smith after this film. The supporting players are astounding. You've got Dick Miller, who shows up in every Joe Dante movie, every Roger Corman film. He plays Willie the Drunk in this, and he's amazing. You have CCH Pounder in this film. You have Thomas Hayden Church from Sideways and Wings. And you have Charles Fleischer, the voice of Roger Rabbit. Okay. So you are
this
in
is insane.
for
So
an insane experience.
I had no idea. Like I'm so pumped now. Like I knew nothing about it. Like I said, I didn't want to look anything up except I kind of saw the cast. But I was just like, what is this schlocky horror movie that Brad is going to make me watch? I'm sure it'll be goofy and ridiculous. And I'm sure it is.
Yes.
But I'm also now like genuinely excited because I did not realize the extent of the talent involved with it.
Well, and then also just the straight up monster stuff in this, the effects that are centered around the demons. There's a demon in it. It's called Demon Night, but the effects centered around the demons are top tier. They look unlike anything else in movies at this time or even today. And it's a really special horror film that does not get the attention that it deserves from a wider audience. But those that watch this film, they talk about this film. And I was so happy when the Shudder documentary Horror Noir came out a couple years ago, that they have a nice little spotlight to Ernest Dickerson and Demon Night. And I think it gained a new bit of life because of Horror Noir. And I hope that Missing Frames can point this film in a few people's directions as well. I do think it's a special film. It's in my top 100.
That's perfect. This is going to be the resurgence of Demon Night.
Yeah.
We're gonna bring it back. I'm like legitimately excited. Okay, I do this thing it's a little unfair. Basically, I make the host who hasn't seen the movie try to guess at the plot, and I've been unfair. I haven't forced myself to do this because it's uncomfortable. I'm gonna try to figure out. Let me see if I can guess what the plot is. Here's what I think it's about. I think William Sadler is somehow, there's like a whole medieval theme because there are knights involved. So there's a whole medieval theme, and William Sadler somehow gets involved with like some sort of heaven and hell battle, and they're like, you are the chosen one. You are going to be the one to wield this like weapon, this weapon that will give you the power of the Demon Knight, and will help you destroy the monsters and face down whatever is coming to destroy you. Am I anywhere close?
Well, Shawn, you got some things right in there, and then you got some things way wrong, and that's delightful.
That's great. So I'm about to find out. I don't think anything will beat, though, your description of what you thought the seventh seal was going to be. I think that was one of my favorites ever on this entire show, but I'm legitimately excited. You've pumped me up. So I say, let's watch Demon Night. We're going to make it happen, and we will be back to discuss it.
Now available to own on video cassette.
And we're back. Brad, I will say this. Ernest Dickerson is no Sam Raimi. That being said, I'm kind of I had a blast watching this. This is pure schlock. It's pure schlock, but it's well-made schlock. It's better than it has any right to be. And I'm actually a little surprised that this hasn't developed more of a cult following, or maybe there's a cult following I'm not aware of. But I will say I enjoyed it. Didn't love it, but I think there is enough of value here, especially for fans of like The Evil Dead. There was a lot of Raimi inspired zaniness and camera angles and fast-paced like horror stuff that I think that kind of horror fan can find a lot to appreciate about it. And I appreciated it too. I think it's a lot of fun.
That's interesting. I accept that. I accept that. I think bringing up Sam Raimi is a fascinating connection that I had not put together before because I don't really see a lot of Sam Raimi in Demon Knight. But then again, you look at the Evil Dead films and Darkman in particular, and those are stories that are certainly influenced, and that era of Raimi is certainly influenced by EC Comics, and I see some blood there. I was not expecting you to
Well,
come
I
away.
think it's
Yeah,
almost inevitable. Like, this was right after Army of Darkness, and it's not like those movies were extremely popular, but they definitely had a cult following that was only building in the years after those films were released. And I don't get the sense that Dickerson is like, it doesn't feel like it's not quite as zany and not quite as clever and madcap as the Evil Dead films, but there are moments where the camera is like kind of zooming through a space, or like these weird Dutch angle close-ups and things like that, where you get a sense that there is definitely some Raimi influence. It's not so overt that it's like, oh my god, this is basically Evil Dead, but it's there, and I haven't seen any of Ernest Dickerson's films as a director, so this is the first time I've seen anything by him, and it's clear that it felt like, and I read up on it, and this is true. My whole thought process was, this feels completely unrelated to anything Tales from the Crypt. Like, it's not at all. They put the teaser at the front. They have the little closeout with the Crypt Keeper at the end, and then the whole film. It feels like they took a script from a pile and said, let's just put the Tales from the Crypt name on it to make some money, and we'll do that. And that apparently is the case. Apparently this script was floating around for a while before they slapped the brand name on it. And I think
right.
a lot of the film, I think what kind of took me by surprise is Tales from the Crypt, again, with my limited knowledge, always felt a little like it was kind of very B level, bordering on C level. And Demon Knight, while the script feels that way, the cast and the production value, considering how low budget it was, and the cinematography, everything from a technical standpoint feels much better. It's almost like this script didn't deserve quite the caliber of people it had attached to it.
Well, first off, I would say you need to go and watch some Tales from the Crypt because, again, it was a little bit of a prestige show. And because of the producers that they had behind Tales from the Crypt, they were able to amass great casts for their stories. Now, Demon Knight does not feel in any way like a Tales from the Crypt episode because it is ripped from a pile of like blacklist like screenplays, and was used as their jumping off point. And at one moment, it wasn't going to be this movie; it was going to be another film. And the second film was going to be Dead Easy, which they tease at the end in the post credit tag of this movie. But then Dead Easy never happened, and Bordello of Blood happened. So they were trying, and they were fumbling to get what the film version of Tales from the Crypt was going to be like. Now, it is very much a B movie. Tales from the Crypt is B. It is pulp. It is grindhouse. It is trash. It's all that stuff that I love. It is exploitation. But the look of the film. What's interesting about it is, yes, Ernest Dickerson comes in and he directs it, and Ernest Dickerson has an astonishing eye. All his movies look good. The movies he shot are astounding movies. But the cinematographer on this was Rick Boda, who was from the Tales from the Crypt camp. And, he does bring a lot of those visual aesthetics from the show to the film. But if you look at Rick Boda's filmography, like, it's not great. It's not the worst.
That's what I was going to ask. It seemed like there was... I wondered about the cinematographer and how Dickerson might have worked with him. I don't know how, I've seen situations where we've had a DP, a director of photography, go in and take on the director's chair with, sometimes successful results, sometimes not. And in this case, I've always wondered what it's like to be a cinematographer, especially a brilliant cinematographer like Dickerson, to have to work with somebody who is probably a tier or two below him. And it doesn't, I mean, it's not like it doesn't feel like it affects the film that much. Like, it feels like Dickerson is still able to bring his expertise there. And I never felt like the movie looked as cheap as it clearly was, if that makes sense, or
Yeah, I mean, I think
as
the
cheap as
movie
its
is
budget
crazy
was.
beautiful. I think the film is gorgeous, and I think that it is a case where Dickerson elevates Boda. Boda, he's the guy who shot the Pam Anderson movie Barbed Wire. He shot the not Damon Wayans, the Keenan Wayans, The Glimmer Man. He shot that slasher film Valentine. Well, Barbed Wire, for what it is, actually has like a pretty good aesthetic to it as well. But Demon Knight looks 1,000 times better than anything that Rick Boda has ever shot, and I think that has to be Ernest Dickerson's collaboration with him.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And it's also like it has an identity. That's what kind of shocked me. It's at every turn, I felt like the script is kind of the thing that holds the movie back as a whole. It's not a bad script. It's just definitely like it feels very schlocky. And like you said, it's very pulpy. But everything around it elevates it. And like you said, I don't know if I'd go so far as to call it a beautiful film. There is some beautiful stuff in it for sure. Like I'm thinking of a lot of the collector dream sequences are really well done, and they bring a lot of nice variety because the film is all essentially in this one location. So I was kind of like, oh, how are they going to work with that? And they found ways to work around it and to include those kind of weirder, more surreal moments that I think really help the film stand out. But I think that's what surprised me the most is it's you're watching something that is B level, but it's also everyone is game. The cast is game, but also the production design and the makeup effects and the creatures. Like it's really top notch. It's kind of shocking to me. Maybe not that shocking, I guess, that it kind of got ignored at the time, but it does feel like the fact that more people haven't been talking about it lately does feel a little interesting. It feels like there is an argument to be made here that this is kind of an underrated horror gem from the 90s.
Yeah, I think that the Tales from the Crypt branding does hold it back a little bit because I really don't think, especially today, that folks understand what was happening on HBO. And HBO's Tales from the Crypt, again, it's Richard Donner, it's Robert Zemeckis, it's Joel Silver. They're bringing A-list money and A-list talent to a B movie script, the way that Spielberg did the same thing with
Right.
Jaws, right? And Peter Benchley's novel. And that's what Hollywood movies do. Hollywood movies, for the most part, are B movie scripts with A movie budgets. And Demon Knight, like Ernest Dickerson, and I would challenge you a little bit about how attractive this movie is and how he makes that church turned hotel look beautiful. You look at the sequence where William Sadler is confronted by the collector with the two police officers early on in the beginning. And William Sadler is pushed up against this stained glass window and it's lit with this blue light and it casts everything in the room with a color. And it like, you just don't see, a frame like that in most films of this ilk. And I think throughout the movie, you see that stuff.
Right. And I think it's funny because you mentioned Demon Knight is not actually based, or it's not adapted from any particular comic story from this comic line. And yet the comic book sensibilities are there. It does feel almost like a comic book movie of the 90s. The 90s were very, very wacky when it came to comic book movies. They kind of we're almost kind of going back into that world a little bit now that Marvel has sort of opened the doors for, like, hey, you can be wacky as long as you keep your integrity. But this feels like it could fall in line with other movies of that genre in this particular decade.
I definitely, I definitely agree with you, and I have a real fondness for a lot of those '90s adaptations, whether they are Dick Tracy, The Rocketeer, The Phantom, The Shadow. They're all kind of precious and darling in their own little ways. Some are better than others, but I think Demon Knight fits those films. Of course, it's an R-rated movie, but the style that it is going with it is embracing style over substance in a lot of ways. But then again, it also has the power of the performers.
Yes, I agree with you too. I think the Tales from the Crypt logo and having that brand attached to it makes it a little confusing. And even as funny as they are, I think the teaser at the beginning and the capper at the end kind of cheapen it a little bit. Like it
Yes.
reminds you, like, oh, this is just part of a brand. It's part of this. It's Tales from the Crypt presents, which just kind of makes it feel a little bit too. I think that's probably why its reputation has not grown more, like people have not grown more fond of it in recent years, or there haven't been a lot of retrospectives about it because of that association. But like you said, I think not only, I mean, the production design and the effects and everything are really, really fun and creative and impressive, but like you said, the cast is so good. And we mentioned William Sadler, you mentioned Jada Pinkett and Billy Zane, and the fact that this is Billy Zane's favorite role that he's ever done. That doesn't surprise me much because he's fantastic and he's clearly like having the time of his life with this role.
Do you know his inspiration for The Collector?
No, is it anything Stephen King related? The movie just had a Stephen King vibe. Okay.
It's not. It is inspired by Robin Williams' The Genie from Aladdin.
That's right. That would have been right around this time. I mean, now that you mention it, 100% I can see that. Like it is it's manic and it's just he's having such a fun time. He's almost like the movie never goes it's pretty settled on its tone, which is kind of grounded except for Billy Zane. Like it's definitely crazy things are happening and people are kind of behave in absurd ways, but I almost was wanting it to go overboard into Evil Dead, like insane slapstick madcap territory. And it wants to be, it feels like it wants to be taken more seriously than that. And I think that holds it back. But Billy Zane as the collector is the one character that gets away with so much and can do practically anything. And the second, I thought it was a nice little twist and maybe a little obvious. Maybe I did kind of see it coming, but when they reveal that William Sadler's character is actually the good guy and Billy Zane is the bad guy, I loved his little freak out when he finally tears off his cowboy regalia and starts yelling and ranting and swearing. And I was like, this is fantastic. This is great. And it surprised me not one bit that Zane has such affection for this role.
Yeah, I mean, it's a way out there performance, and tonally, it's unlike any of the other characters. But that tracks because he's the demon character, and he's this character who can conjure things out of thin air, or he can pull a sponge from his mouth, or piss fire. So he's clearly having a lot of fun and pushing that as far as the film will allow him. And in some ways that is off-putting on your first watch, because the rest of the movie, despite some Dutch angles and what have you, is not as wild as what The Collector is.
Exactly.
But I also kind of dig that too, and when you look at characters like Dick Miller as Uncle Willie, he gets to go pretty far with that character as well. And it's nice that it seems like Ernest Dickerson gives these guys a lot of leash to play within the confines of their characters. And I think Dick Miller excels at that. Yes. I think Thomas Haden Church excels at that. And I think CCH Pounder excels in that.
They all do. And they all do feel like I think that was a really wise move on Dickerson's part. And I think that's where he really shows his kind of instincts. It's a shame. I haven't seen much else, but I was looking through his IMDb and he's kind of moved into television a little bit, but I feel like I would have loved to have seen more from him, maybe some more original work, because it's clear that he gave them some room to play. I don't get the sense that, just from the dialogue, I don't get the sense that a lot of this was on the page in terms of like the personality quirks and things like that, like the special things they bring to the table. And I mean, you can make that argument for a lot of things. A lot of times the actor is bringing themselves to that part and it makes it the whole that we enjoy. But at the same time, I feel like Dickerson was kind of like, okay, guys, we're going to have to, the script doesn't give you a lot to work with. You're each going to have to bring it in terms of a personality. You're going to have to bring your A game to the table. And they do. And I mean, like, they're all great. Like you said, Jada Pinkett is amazing. I mean, the second she shows up, it was like, oh my God, the sass. This is like, it just is overflowing from the screen. But then she becomes the hero at the end, and it feels natural and it feels kind of great. And it feels very progressive. Like, it's just the whole thing plays out in a way that feels very satisfying and fun.
Narratively, her turn as Geraldine into the hero, into Breaker's replacement, is the most surprising aspect of the film, and also the most rewarding. Like when she finally has her confrontation with the Collector and takes him down, that feels really, really good. And I also think that the way the film sort of teases each character's interaction with the Collector, like how is every character going to fall on the good or evil side, right? Obviously, Thomas Hayden Church as Roach, he's a jerk from the beginning and he's going to be a jerk till the end. But like, where is Uncle Willie going to fall, and where is Danny the kid going to fall, and Wally? And what I love is that Geraldine on top, she's going to choose the right way. I love that CCH Pounder as Irene doesn't fall to temptation. And I love that Deputy Bob, Gary Farmer, doesn't fall to temptation. And you have these three really strong characters with backbone, in addition to William Sadler. And all those moments, like when CCH Pounder, after having her arm ripped off and presented with a new one by the Collector saying, hey, come onto my side and I'll give you your arm back. And when she raises her stump to give him the finger, like that's a really great moment. And so much so that when they go out, when Deputy Bob and Irene suicide vest themselves to the demons, you feel their loss in the story.
Yes.
And like, it's powerful.
Yes,
like,
that was something that it did impress me. Because I realized, again, the movie, it doesn't necessarily always work for me, but I did realize that I was more invested than I thought I was at that moment. I was like, they did a really good job kind of building them up and giving them dynamics and making you like them. And it's not just like, and I felt that way even at the beginning when Wally and Cordelia get turned, because like you said, the film kind of does a much better job than you would expect playing with your expectations. You kind of get this setup of like, oh, it's a really sweet love story, and maybe Wally will kind of get the upper hand. Like he'll walk away as sort of a hero and he'll get the girl, and he's been in love with her. And then it's just kind of not. It's just this sort of tragic, like, oh, they both get turned into demons and murdered and killed, and it's awful. Or he doesn't get turned into a demon. He gets murdered in like the most brutal way. But it's kind of, it is funny how that plays out. Like I was expecting one thing and the film sort of takes you in another direction.
And like the other thing that I really adore about the movie is the production design. Like, I think it was an ingenious call on Dickerson's part to shoot the entire thing inside an airplane hangar. They shot it at Van Nuys Airport, and they built that whole set, and they built the exterior of the set and the grounds around the set. And the mound where Christ and the two thieves are crucified, and the trenches, it's all in this airplane hangar, and it looks so good. And it looks very, very Vincent Pricey. Like it looks like a Roger Corman Mask of the Red Death kind of set, but lit in a very colorful Ernest Dickerson kind of way.
Yes. That colorful, like, sense of, again, like you were saying, there are a couple sequences where I know there's one shot where the light comes through the kind of the window of the cross, and then William Sadler, his character, Breaker, he has that sort of flashback to the crucifixion and all that stuff. Dickerson does a great job making use of that locale, because again, most of the film takes place in one space, and that's probably for budgetary reasons. They were very limited in what they could do, but he makes the most of it, and it does feel larger than life. It feels a little surreal in a way. Like you do get the sense of this is
Yes.
some kind of unreality where things are, obviously there are demons and stuff like that, but he does a really great job of the production design, and everything reflects that, and the cinematography reflects that, and the colors reflect that, and he does have fun with that. I wanted him to have more fun with the material. There's some of the lines in the film are very genuinely funny, and practically everything Billy Zane does is hysterical. But there are a couple things like that they try to force, like some of the jokes feel a little ridiculous. I did really love Roach spitting on the demons, and
Yeah.
then Breaker going, "Hey, they hate that." Like that to me was just so funny, and I don't even think that was overtly supposed to be a big laugh line, but for some reason I thought that kind of stuff was so funny. I almost wish the film was more deadpan like that.
I mean, it's hard for me to go back and look at the dialogue and say like what works or what doesn't, because I've lived with it for decades, and by this point, it all works for
Right.
me. But I understand what
Right.
you're saying, and there are certainly jokes that fall flat, and I think there are also some narrative movements that don't work quite as well as others. And so I'll concede to that point, Sean.
Which stuff doesn't work as well for you?
Well, I mean, I think that Danny's inclusion into the story, and his parents coming up through the tunnels. It's meant to like bring a little more life to the group. We've now introduced another character. Uh, I think that character maybe was not necessary, and I certainly am not a fan
Mm.
of the Danny performance. No hate on Ryan
No.
O'Donoghue, um,
But
but like,
I did love I love Danny Demon, like the
yes,
crazy demon face that kind of looked like one of the vampires from Blade 2,
yes, yes,
the
yes, with a
Reapers or
split
whatever they're
mouth.
called.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I love that, but I guess what I'm really speaking to is his interaction with Dick Miller just does not work. And his interaction with William Sadler does not work. He doesn't feel like a real person.
There are a couple things too where I felt like Roach, for instance. I mean, Thomas Hayden Church, he's awesome, and maybe part of this is because now that we know Thomas Hayden Church is who he is, and he's been in so much, and he's capable of so much, I felt like Roach's death was underwhelming. It was too like it was too obvious that the collector was going to betray
Mm,
him and kill him. I just didn't realize it
mm.
was going to be that straightforward. Like Roach is like, "All right, I'm
Yeah.
going to make a deal with you." Even and Breaker's already warned him. He's like, "Don't make a deal with them because they're going to screw you over." And so you almost expect it to be a little more. And Roach has been with them for practically the whole movie. But then it's just kind of like the collector's like, "Oh, no, 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 yeah, yeah, you'll get away scot free," and he's like, "Okay, great." And on his way out, the collector goes, "Oh, by the way, Roach, I lied," and then the demons just kind of eat him. I think things like that, where it's like, "Oh, if you had just pushed it to the edge of ridiculousness," because in some cases they're willing to do that, like with Danny, that kid like turning into like a vicious monster, like really horrific. Things like that, or the way they kill Uncle Willie,
I mean, Uncle Willie's is my favorite.
and then
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So good.
I also love his dream sequence. Just the way Dick
Yeah.
Miller performs it, where he's just surrounded by naked women. He's just like, oh my goodness, it's the funniest thing ever. But yeah, I wanted that for Roach. I felt like you should have. Roach has made it that long. He's so despicable. He deserves a more extravagant death than just like, oh, off screen he gets killed by these monsters.
My inclination with Roach is that's the character you kind of want to steer onto the other side of morality, right? Like if I was writing this screenplay, I mean, I might even make the Roach character the character who ends up on top, who has a little bit of a turnaround, or we get to know a little bit more about why he is the way he is, rather than him being so two dimensional. At the same time, all these characters are very two dimensional, and that kind of fits
Yes.
in with the overall narrative aesthetic.
Yes, I think that's part of the. It's like you're right. It is part of the aesthetic. It's also for me part of the problem is that you do kind of you sense the talent, and you sense the feeling that like we said, the script was pulled from a pile and kind of like, all right, well, we're going to make this. We already have it. Let's just do it. And you almost wish that somebody, maybe Dickerson, could have sat down with the cast and they could have all like workshopped a little bit and maybe done a rewrite and fit in those elements. Cause I think that instinct is right. I think you do want more from Roach, but also all the characters, they're all pretty straightforward. Like even Breaker, after that initial twist where it's like, oh, the collector's the bad guy and Breaker's the good guy, Breaker kind of falls into the pattern of like, he's the hero, and then he sacrifices himself. And then you get a nice surprise at the end with Jada Pinkett taking on the mantle. But it does feel like everyone kind of falls into place. Like they don't necessarily, there aren't a whole lot of shocks or a lot of twists or a lot of not creativity, but there isn't a whole lot to throw you off balance and kind of engage you in that way where you're kind of like, oh wow, I didn't see that coming at all. This is crazy. I think that's, like you said, it is what's missing, and the talent of the cast is so strong that I could feel it. I was like, I want you to give them more to do, and I think that's why I had trouble embracing it completely, because I felt that and I wanted it, even though that's not really what this movie is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, fair enough. I do think it is, with these kind of movies, you want archetypes, and everyone is falling into an archetype. And Roach is there not to have any twists and turns so that we feel the turn of Geraldine all the more.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, that really works for me. I could workshop the script to death, but as it is presented, I think for this kind of film, it is a top tier gore, horror, supernatural tale.
Yes, you don't want to take away from that vibe almost. Like if this is your kind of movie, then this is your kind of movie. And you accept the weak archetypes, you accept the lack of development, and you embrace the cheesiness and the ridiculousness of it and almost the cheapness of it, while at the same time respecting the fact that I think in lesser hands, it could have been far less memorable and far less well made.
I mean, Demon Knight is never going to be the seventh seal, Shawn, but like you compare Demon Knight to its sequel, Bordello of Blood, or you compare Demon Knight to any one of those Boda films that I mentioned earlier, the Glimmerman or Barbed Wire or what have you. Like the 90s weren't cranking out genre films that look and feel and are performed as well as Demon Knight.
That's true. And I mean, you're right. As badly as I wish Ingmar Bergman could have taken a stab at this one, it'll never happen. But that's something else I wanted to ask you. So what exactly happened with this Tales from the Crypt trilogy? So, I mean, they tease at the very end a particular movie that wasn't the movie that got made. And then it's a Bordello of Blood, and then there was one more film, but like what happened? Like, so this is kind of just like an anomaly. Like it was just, they got a really good cast and some really talented people behind the scenes, and they were like, let's not do that again. Let's just cheapen it up. Like what exactly happened with this franchise, quote unquote?
Well, I do think that they put all their eggs in this basket. I think Demon Knight, they put a lot into this film once they decided Demon Knight was going to be the script that they were going to use. And they put it out there, and it doesn't light the world on fire. It doesn't catch a lot of eyes. And then they do Bordello of Blood, which was like an old Robert Zemeckis script that gets referenced in Brian De Palma's Blowout. Like the Bordello of Blood idea had been floating around forever, but when they drop Dennis Miller into it, and then they really amp up the comedy of Bordello of Blood, they don't get as many strong, solid performers. It's not as strong as an idea, and Bordello of Blood is it has its charms, but it's a stinker. And Bordello of Blood didn't catch any traction box office wise. And yes, there was supposed to be a third film. And then in 2002, there was a Tales from the Crypt Presents Ritual, which I've never seen. And I didn't realize that was actually a Tales from the Crypt movie. Although I see the Crypt Keeper on the box art now. It came out, several years after Bordello of Blood. There was no energy on the brand by that point, and it just fizzled out. I do want to go back and watch Ritual, and I do want to research and explore exactly what happened with the death of Tales from the Crypt. Um, because it was so strong a presence, especially when it was on HBO in 89 and
Yeah.
90, 89 to 91, I think. Um, and it, I mean, if you go back and you watch those shows, it's really unlike anything you've ever seen before. It's so
Right.
strange. And I think Demon
I
Knight
al-
could have been a
I
great start to a trilogy, but it just doesn't quite happen.
I could almost see, like, I don't think it will ever happen, but I would pay to see a Jada Pinkett, like, her starring in a long overdue sequel will never happen, but bring her back, bring Billy Zane back. I don't know how you bring Billy Zane back, but you can find a way.
He's a demon.
And bring William Sadler back, bring them all back. It's a horror movie. It doesn't need to make sense. But
Well,
I would almost, the movie's clever enough that I would welcome it.
if you listen to Ernest Dickerson on the Scream Factory Blu-rays, he would love for there to be a sequel. And there
Oh,
is
wow.
a lot of material there, as he calls it, mythology there for you to build more stories from. But because it's a Tales from the Crypt thing and the anthology is kind of baked into the idea, that was never going to happen. And I also think that's a big problem with the Tales from the Crypt idea from a cinematic point of view is we don't really do anthologies in America. Like Hollywood
No.
has no interest in that. When Michael Myers disappears and it becomes Season of the Witch, everyone gets upset and says, "Bring back Michael Myers," even though Season of the Witch is by far the best sequel to Halloween. The anthology is something that's just underrepresented because it's underappreciated.
I think that would be great. I don't know how it would happen. That makes me happy that Dickerson wants to do it. So some other things I really loved in the film. I loved that the first major death is punching through the police officer's face. That
Yeah.
caught me completely by surprise and was great. I thought the ending with when she spits the blood in the collector's face and he just melts and falls apart again, was so impressed by all the gore effects and by all the like practical effects. I know you mentioned that in the first part. The demons were there were points where I was like, are they people in suits? Is it a combination of green screen and people in suits? How did they get them to walk like that? Like there are a couple wider shots where I couldn't quite figure out what the effect was that really impressed me.
Well, there's puppets and people.
Okay, gotcha. So they did a really good job with that. Again, the film, I don't know what its budget is. Looking at Wikipedia, it doesn't say. It says how much it grossed, but it doesn't necessarily say what how much it cost. My feeling is this was probably it's maybe 10 million or right around that. Like I can't imagine this was that much to make.
Yeah, it's a pretty low budget movie. And when Todd Masters first budgeted the special effects and he presented it to the producers came back with another screenplay, and they decided that all the demons weren't going to be demons at all, but just actors with fiery eyes, because the what Todd Masters presented to him was so over budget. And when Todd Masters saw the rebudget and the new screenplay, he's like, "You can't make a movie called Demon Knight without making demons. Let me go back. Let me put together another budget that's more manageable for what you want to spend, and we'll make something with real demons." And then that's how it happened. And those puppets and those performers in suits, like, they are so good, and they make you just
They make
crave
it. Yeah.
that practical, that tangible effect that we just don't see anymore.
And I'm so glad they did that because the film needs that. It
Yeah,
needs that extra element because it's working with so little in terms of like if you lose those demons, what else do you have? You have these
yeah.
great performances, but it's pretty locked into reality with a lot of human characters, relatively bland human characters. So the demons just give it that extra production value and that sense of fantastical and horror that again this film needed that. I'm glad that worked out. I also want to point out that what is the line my nipples are smoking, Thomas Haden Church,
Yeah,
with the
my nipples
battery
are
attached to his
smoking.
nipples. That might be something I have to use on a regular basis. I don't know how yet, but you know what? Those are small details, and I'm sure I can find a way to make that work.
It's the way he says it.
Yeah. But again, you know, the film, it's like you said, it's not going to end up, maybe even with a reevaluation, I don't think anyone's going to be like, oh, this is a misunderstood masterpiece. But it is something that I feel like somebody would put on as a joke, like oh, Tales from the Crypt Demon Night, that sounds stupid, and they'd put it on as a joke, and maybe they'd make fun of it for a bit, but then they'd probably at the end of it be like, yeah, that wasn't that bad actually. That was kind of fun. That was kind of well made. I mean, I feel like, you know, as a kid, I was definitely not into horror. I was definitely not into gore and things like that. So Tales from the Crypt was not at all my thing. But I feel like maybe if I had stumbled upon like an edited for TV version of this as a 12-year-old, I probably would have loved it. Like, it just feels like one of those movies that like a 12-year-old kid would just eat right up. Like, he would be like, this movie's amazing, and like they would embrace it completely.
I can say that is correct.
You can say with certainty.
Yes.
What other things about this viewing do you take away? Like, what else stood out for you from this viewing that you might not have noticed in other viewings of the film?
On my rewatch this time, it was really noticeable how different the vibe and look of the bookends are compared to the actual movie. And like I said, Dickerson did not shoot either of the Crypt Keeper sequences. And while
I was gonna say, yeah.
yeah, I mean, they just don't look anything like the rest of the movie.
Right.
But as a fan of Tales from the Crypt and as a fan of the Crypt Keeper, I still adore those films or those segments, and I really like John Larroquette's actor in the first section quite a bit.
I mean, it is a funny opening. Its only problem is the fact that it opens this movie that has nothing to do with it. It really, like, I was kind of like, I didn't know where the film was going. I just thought, I was like, oh, this movie is really, really goofy, and it's already like there's a naked woman. It's ridiculous gore effects, like gooey, gross gore, and it's hilarious. And then they're kind of like, oh, just kidding, it's just a movie. And I was like, oh, so this isn't even really the movie. This is the introduction to the movie. And I that just, I think, throws it off. Otherwise, like on its own, it's funny, and I get it. Like the Crypt Keeper thing is something that I just missed the boat on that, but I understand sort of like, oh, it's goofy, it's fun, it's silly. I like it.
Yeah, and I think that's the challenge, and it would have been, really interesting to see what they had done if they had been given like 6 or 7 films to play with. And I don't think that you wouldn't look at these sequences in a weird way if they had succeeded with their brand going forward. But because they don't, it feels really tonally off. Now, that's less of an issue if you're coming to Demon Night having just finished the last season of the HBO series. Then when they get to Bordello of Blood, I think the problem is that they lean way into the tone of the bookends from this film for the entirety of the second film. And that tone for so long really doesn't work for me. It's not bad for a half-hour episode, but for nearly 2 hours, just I don't want anything to do with it.
So probably not worth watching the others, is what you're saying.
I'm just saying, lower your expectations. It's not Demon Night. Still worth owning. I've got it.
I understand. What else? I mean, is there anything else we've missed that you want to make sure we bring up?
CCH Pounder as Irene, the woman who runs the hotel. I think another ingenious thing that they do from an effects point of view is they give her a fat suit so that when her arm finally does get ripped off, Pounder can hide her arm in her belly. So and you don't.
I never even noticed that.
Yeah, and
yeah, that's actually really smart.
Bravo to Todd Masters and his team for concocting that. It's an incredibly effective appendage.
The movie's it's a well-made film. The script at the center of this production did not deserve the talent involved with it, but I'm so glad that they were all like in it. Like there aren't really any feelings of cynicism or phoning it in. Everyone is committed
Yeah.
and everyone is there and everyone wants to make it happen. And it works. It's not great, but it works and it's fun. And I think people who would never have watched this movie or would never have expected that kind of thing can watch this and find themselves pleasantly surprised at what they're seeing.
I'll go with that. Fine. Okay. I accept that. I accept that.
Just be happy, Brad. This is the one I wasn't sure about. I was just like, I didn't know how it was gonna go. So just be
Same.
happy I enjoyed it on any level. So
I am
think we're
happy.
good.
I am
We're
happy.
doing pretty well. I mean, what is this? This is 6 for 6 now, where
Yeah.
we have yet to introduce each other to a movie we haven't enjoyed. But I guess final ratings. What should our rating system be? Do we want to do like
Smoking nipples?
Smoking nipples? Let's do it. So I okay, on a scale from 1 to 5 smoking nipples, how many would you give it, Brad?
I mean, I give it 5 smoking nipples. There's a lot of nipples on this thing, and
My God. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I'll give it a solid 3. It gets a solid 3 smoking nipples from me.
I'm not going to be too defensive. I'm gonna be fine. I'm good. 3's good.
Okay.
3's.
Don't
I
be
interpret
defensive.
3 as a
3
thumbs
is good.
up.
3 is a thumbs up. That is for sure. 3 is right on the border, but I would give this a thumbs up for sure. And again, it's not that it's a bad movie. It's just that it's definitely not on par with what would make it great for me. But I was very impressed with it regardless, because to me, it feels like this should have been way worse, and it's not. It's great in that regard. So I thank you for introducing it to me. This is like a weird left turn, but it kind of worked out as far as the movies we've been introducing to each other. And
Well,
then it's my turn, I guess. We're throwing back to me for episode 100. My God, when we reach that, I'm going to have to come up with something. Man, I don't even know what I'm going to do for that.
It's got to be an epic movie.
It's going to be epic for sure. Yeah, we'll have to figure it out. But Brad, thank you again. This is always a pleasure, always a delight to have you on. And I know you were busy, so I thank you for making time in your schedule. You're busy with a ton of things, projects, podcasts, writing. Tell the good people at home all about the stuff you're doing.
Well, you can find me on all social medias at MouthDork. You can find my writings, various interviews at Film School Rejects. You should all be following One Perfect Shot, where I'm one of the senior curators there. I don't know if you've heard this, but Ava DuVernay has partnered with us and is making an HBO Max series about our Twitter feed.
Yes.
So that's pretty darn cool. We're pretty excited about that.
That is very darn cool.
It's super darn cool. It's crazy cool. And you can also, if you're into comic book things, if you like EC Comics, if you came here for the EC Comics chat, you can find me talking about the 4-Color Forum over at the Comic Book Couples Counseling Podcast, which is a show that I do with my wife, where every week we tackle a new storyline, a new comic book couple, and we apply a self-help relationship love guru to their stories to kind of like put them on the couch and figure out how they can be better romantic partners.
And also, even though this episode will be going out probably a week or so after we've recorded it, it's your birthday tomorrow. And happy birthday, Brad. This is what a wonderful birthday present for you to be able to hang out with me. And but I would encourage everybody, if you haven't already, as a birthday gift to Brad, even though this would be a very belated gift, go ahead and head over to iTunes, give Comic Book Couples Counseling Podcast a 5-star rating. And while you're at it, stop on by Missing Frames. And if you like what you're hearing, give us a 5-star rating, write a review. I would so appreciate it. And I would encourage everybody to do so. And I am at Shawn Dorman on Twitter. Find me on Twitter there. And you can find me on Letterboxd, which is just I think it's Shawn Dorman. And then find me on Instagram at Shawn Dorman.
One last thing, Shawn. If you're at all curious about Ernest Dickerson and you don't necessarily want to have more of the Demon Knight flavor, I do recommend you watch Juice. It's as stylistically rich as Demon Knight, but not at all in the same world or universe as Demon Knight. Now, if you want more Demon Knight, you should check out Bones, the film that he did with Snoop Dogg. And actually, you should watch his Ice-T movie, which I just revisited as part of the Chattanooga Film Festival's virtual convention, Surviving the Game with Rutger Hauer and Gary Busey and F. Murray Abraham. It is wild.
I will check these out because I am very curious and I want to see more. I feel like kind of like I know he's doing TV right now, but I feel like I was kind of robbed a little bit of a Dickerson filmography. So I will have to go back and watch those.
Blame DMX.
On that note, we'll close it out and we'll just say summertime. Is that what she says? Summertime? Did I miss something?
No, she says supper
what
time.
Summertime means?
She says supper time.
Supper time. That, you know what? This is a 5-star film. 5 stars.
Supper time.